Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 200. Or Mike and Chad Toy Talk, episode 8, I think. Yeah, so I'm Mike.
I'm Chad.
And the part of my collection that we're going to be talking about today is a brand new box of Mythic Legions that just came in this afternoon. Now, if you watched our last episode, we're not wearing the same clothes again. We're shooting this on the same night. And literally the last thing we just talked about is your little sign-off at the end of the last video. You mentioned that where we are in Nova Scotia, Canada, was the hottest area of the country. And I immediately started sweating as soon as you said it.
Me too.
It's like I'm warm down here and I knew I was, but as soon as you told me this is the hottest spot in the whole country.
It's gone up 10 degrees since.
Yeah, and now I'm just so I apologize if you're getting a lot of glare off of me here. It's warm. It's warm in this little room. So anyway, Mythic Legions. I know they know, but I can't help myself. And a quick little recap. This is an original line by the Four Horsemen, which is the Four Horsemen Studios. It's their own independent toy company. They used to sculpt for McFarlane Toys and Hasbro and all that stuff. But yeah, so now they have their own original line of toys. It's kind of fantasy based, so you get a lot of orcs and trolls and ogres and shit like that. And it's been going for I don't know how many years. Maybe even 5 more? 5 or 6? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I backed the initial Kickstarter, and then I backed the second Kickstarter, and I think they only started with 2 Kickstarters, and after that they just kind of started taking pre-orders. They didn't have to set a minimum or anything. I think the line was successful enough at that point that they could kind of self-fund the waves. Anyway, it's a very broad collection. You don't have any of these things, do you?
I don't, no, but I got really interested after watching your 2015 video.
Yeah,
that stuff.
Yeah, they've got a rabid fan base. I can't imagine being a completist for this line because there's so many, and they're expensive. Not ridiculously so. They're more affordable than say Super 7 Ultimates figures, but just in our last video we were complaining about how Super 7 Ultimate figures are way too expensive to maintain a large collection. They're good to kind of pick and choose. And that's what I do with Mythic Legions. I pick and choose kind of my favorite factions, and I kind of build on those. My largest faction so far is the Skeletons. Mm-hmm. I think I have 7 or 8 Skeleton Warriors, and then I have a couple other odds and ends. Anyway, so this is the latest wave. I don't know the pronunciation. They always have all these crazy fantasy names, like something out of Lord of the Rings. But I think it's Illithia, or Illithia. Do you know what these figures are at all?
No, I haven't. I kind of kept it a surprise once he said he got them. I didn't want to look into it.
Yeah, so these figures went up for pre-order in October, November 2020. My pre-order, I went back and looked so my pre-order went through November 2020. Usually there's a month window that you have to pre-order them. So that gives you an idea of how long. It's been almost 2 years, a year and a half or so since I ordered and paid for these things. So it's been a long wait. This is often the case when you're buying these kind of
independent toys.
Yeah, made to order independent toys, and the pandemic certainly didn't help matters. Things are taking a long time to get out. So this is one of those things where I almost forgot about it, that I ordered it. And I'm very thankful I had to pay for it then. Because I had the money then. I certainly I don't now. I like on Big Bad Toy Store that they don't charge you until the item's in stock.
Yes.
But at the same time, I've got this looming dread because I've got 80 pre-orders at Big Bad Toy Store, and I'm they might all come in stock and hit my credit card. Whereas this thing, I knew it was going to come, and it was already paid for, and I felt good about it. And to be perfectly honest, given my current financial situation and my collecting situation, space-wise and everything, if this line had come out today, I don't know if I would have bought any of them. I might have bought 1 or 2, but I wouldn't have bought as many as I did here. I kind of went a little overboard here. So on this particular wave, Illithia, it was basically, usually they kind of do 1 or 2 of everything. So there's 1 skeleton, 1 orc, 1 knight, whatever. But this one, they kind of had 2 factions. They had their vampire faction, and then they had their, kind of, woodland faction which was a bunch of like elves and stuff like that. I'm not into the elves stuff. Now they did have as their steed, they had a big moose, which was pretty cool. But I don't really need a moose figure that's like this big. But so half of the line was that. So if I really was a completist, I would have bought that wave as well. But I just wanted the vampires. And I'm not like a particular vampire guy. I don't read the Twilight books or anything like that. But
you've seen the movies though, right?
I only ever saw the first movie. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I didn't mind it, but I never felt like going back and watching the other ones.
I was partially being sarcastic.
Yeah. Are you a team Jacob or team Edward?
I'd have to go Edward because I like the vampires.
And he's Batman now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, Jacob, I don't think he's done much.
No, he hasn't.
Some direct-to-video shit, but anyway, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
So anyway, with these vampires, they had a couple vampires previously, like in their other waves. Like I said, it was like one vampire in wave 1, one vampire in wave 2. And I didn't buy any of the vampires because I wasn't particularly enamored with the vampires. They're pretty standard looking. They're kind of white, bald, pointy ears, pointy teeth. And sure, they look cool, but for me, in those other ways, I was more drawn to the skeleton or the ogre or whatever.
I have a huge thing for skulls, and like I'm covered in skeletons.
Yeah, skeletons are the best.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know why I bought the vampires on this one, but I did. That's what I saw, and I was like, and for some reason, I was like, I can't get just one. I need them all. So anyway, here they are.
That's a really big box.
It's a pretty big box. It's definitely not the biggest box that they've delivered here, but anyway. So yeah, I've had this came in this afternoon, and it's always tough when you get a box like this, and I'm like, I have to sit on this because I wanted to do an unboxing with you and with you guys. So, all right. So basically, what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna pull these guys out. We'll get Chad's genuine. And mine too. First reactions, but at least I kind of know what the figures look like. But you don't even know.
I don't know. Yeah.
But then we're shooting this kind of late at night, actually. So we're going to do the introduction, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to shoot the close-ups and the outside the box stuff. Probably when I'm home by myself. And but anyway, so for now you'll get our first reactions inside the box. Alright, so let's start with Baron Volligar II.
Do we have a Baron Volligar the first?
I don't know. You might have to read his little file card on the side. There's like a little independent bio, but I wouldn't recommend that. That'd probably make for boring TV. But like I said, I didn't buy any of the vampires from the first couple of waves. Maybe one of them was Baron Volligar. I don't know. But
that's a pretty nice figure. I mean, I don't know too much about the Mythic Legions because I never collected them, but ever since I watched the Best of 2015 video that you posted, I think it was the Cardenas figure, I was like, man, that is such a nice toy.
And he's really, because and just since this is technically a separate video from the last video, some people might not have watched my last video, but we just shot episode 199 before this, and we talked about how I posted my top 15 figures of 2015 just the other day, even though it's 2022. And in that video, I named Cardenas, one of the Four Horsemen figures, as one of my top 15 figures, and that kind of got you interested.
Yeah, so I was kind of intrigued on it, and I don't know, I have a newfound love of independent toy makers, not big box toy makers like Hasbro and whatever, because I think based off your videos that you've done about the Action Force figures and anything that's independently made,
let these guys see them a little bit.
The quality is fantastic. You're really getting a lot of bang for your buck. It's got a little weight to them, so...
Yeah, and you guys will see them up close once I get them open out of the package. And these things, we were also talking about this in my last video, because we were talking about this toy line, the Amazing Heroes. And this is a toy line where if you can open them, because the blister card slides out of the plastic, and then if you want to seal it, you can slide the blister card back over, so you don't have to cut it or destroy it. These are the same way.
Which is great, because I think I can't really see behind there, but it looks like it's got some pretty cool art.
Yeah, I think he's got like lots of accessories, like cloth cape and all that stuff. One of these guys has like a big fur collar. I don't think it's him, but anyway, so you can get them out and display them like that. But then if you want to display them back on your wall or on your shelf in the box, you can do that, and you haven't really diminished the value because you can tuck it right back away the way you got it. So it's really cool. I appreciate that they do that.
Kind of looks like Nosferatu.
Yes, very much Nosferatu. All right, so
I like him.
All right, so next one we've got Vallak, and he's like the kind of like the falconer of the group.
Ooh.
So you notice he's like an archer, and I don't know if you can see in the package, but he has a falcon or an eagle or something that actually
right on the side
clips onto his wrist. Yeah, there's the eagle in there. You can show them the actual figure a little bit. So he's got the same. They're very aesthetically the same, kind of black and purple with the white faces.
But vampires.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I felt like I wanted this whole group, because I just thought they worked really well together. They look like a little squad, a nice little team.
Yeah, he's got like a little orcish look to him too, which is kind of nice. I don't know. I'm big into orcs.
Yeah. Now, this guy is a little different. So this is Varg. I don't know what his deal is, but he is like, it's a bigger package, but he's actually a little figure.
Oh,
so,
maybe it's because of the wings.
Yeah, so he's got those giant wings. But you notice those other figures that we showed you were 6 inches. This guy's actually only, I think, a 4-inch figure.
Yeah, he looks smaller.
They have a bunch of the shorter figures, usually like dwarves and like little, I don't know, goblins are usually in the shorter scale. I have one of the 4-inch figures. He's like a little blue demon guy. But I thought he looked really cool. He just looked like a fierce little bruiser. I don't know, like, and the really impressive wingspan for such a little figure.
I guess they kind of make up for the shortness with the extra accessories. Like, he's got some pretty sick stuff there.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. And next one, this is probably the one I was most excited about because I like these big ones. It started off with just the 2 scales. So Mythic Legions, I think, was the very first wave was all 6-inch figures with a couple of like the 4-inch figures. And then they went into doing trolls, which were like 12-inch figures. And I have one of them. I think they've released 5 different ones of those. And then later they got into, I think, the ogre class is what they call it, but it's 9-inch figures. So I have a few of them. And they're kind of my favorite because they stand out more. And so this is the vampire ogre scale. So this here is like a big old beastly 9-inch vampire figure.
Ooh, I like him.
So what's his name?
Deciballis.
Okay.
Or Deciballis.
Yeah, I can't pronounce any of these guys' names, but
yeah,
he's cool.
He's very nice, very attractive figure.
Yeah, like got a bad glare on his face there, but yeah, I can imagine this being the kind of guy that they keep in a pit somewhere, all chained up, and then they throw somebody down into their gladiator pit to have to fight this big dumb idiot, and he's awesome.
Well, we don't know he's dumb.
Yeah, we'll have to read his bio. Maybe he has a couple of degrees, but I doubt it.
He's nice. I like him.
He's nice.
Or her. Which, I'm assuming it's a dude.
Probably.
Well, yeah.
But,
there's no front chat.
But here's the female of the group.
Yeah.
And this is what the whole line is named after. So her name is Illithia, and she comes with the horse Phobus. So one of the sets I have out there is this red fiery demon guy called Illythia, and his horse is Aethon, I think.
His horse?
His horse is called Aethon. Aether and you know what I'm saying. Yeah. A guy and his horse. And I think the way this is supposed to kind of work, these guys are called the 4 Horsemen that make these toys, is they've kind of established these 4 gods or something of this, and the 4 gods all have their own like horse. And so here she is. So this is the second character that comes with a horse. So the moose would be in that scale, except with a gigantic head and antlers. So you can imagine how big that figure would have been. Yeah. So because I ordered this one, we've talked a little bit. I can't remember if it was in a previous episode or maybe off camera, but I told you about some of the pre-orders I had coming that I was like on the fence with canceling and stuff. And I have another Mythic Legions horse pre-ordered. it's from that kind of diseased bug-looking guy. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
And his horse is all green and rotted away. The main reason I kind of feel compelled to get that is because I've got 2 of the horse people, and if I get him, I'll have all 3, and then whatever the 4th one that comes out, I'll feel kind of committed to get that one too. But yeah, so this is again, I'm just seeing it here. It looks really nice. She's pretty elaborate. I think when you take, she's got these extra arms, and there's like real metal chains that dangle off of them, and she's got this whole, it almost looks like a whole torture rack coming off of her back and stuff. And the horse is creepy looking with his own thing. He's got these bat wings on his reins and everything. Like, it's a pretty cool set.
Yeah, she's got a lot of dark vibes. I like it. So, kind of off tangent nerd speak here. I play Magic the Gathering.
Nerd.
I will admit that I only got into that maybe 10 years ago. We used to make fun of the kids that played it in high school and like, oh, my level 3 caterpillar is going to kill you. Yeah, and then one day I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to start playing this? So we started playing. Black is my favorite color in the Magic the Gathering series because it's full of like vampires and dark creatures.
I don't know. Look at that little skull with the scales and thing on the top of her head.
Yeah, that's cool. That's like, it's neat.
Yeah, like she's got like an attractive face. Like it's a nice looking figure with a ton of detail. Again, I'm going to open this up and you guys will see it later. But like, I'm noticing on the top of her head there, she's got that little skull. Like the headpiece is very like H.R. Geiger. Mm-hmm. Like it looks like straight out of the Alien movies. Like she's got so much stuff going on there.
So when you do a cut-in reviewing this toy, she looks like Liliana, who is like one of the leaders, the vampire leaders from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I think like all these guys, like
they're unique.
The 4 Horsemen, they're unique, but they haven't reinvented the wheel, like you said. No. He looks like Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Even in Marvel, like if you read the kind of darker Marvel comic books, like with Blade and stuff, Lilith is like the evil kind of, I don't know if she's a vampire per se or some sort of demon, but you know, she's got this kind of like white skin and everything. So yeah, with the character you just mentioned, this character Lilith, even their names all kind of sound sort of the same. So again, it's not like anything it's nothing you haven't seen before, but they make it work so well. And but yeah, so these figures all look awesome. Mythic Legions never disappoint. But, like as I said before, would I order these things if they went up for pre-order for the first time today? I would maybe have ordered just the big guy. Yeah. Just because I don't have... Like, these horses take up a lot of room. These figures are expensive.
They also add a lot of weight to the package, which translates into higher shipping costs.
Like, this order was... it was $300 and some dollars US. When I factor in the conversion to Canadian and the shipping, this cost me about $500. So you're looking at 5 figures and a horse, $500. Like that's a lot when you consider, you know, G.I. Joe or a Star Wars figure. They're $30 a pop. These guys are basically costing me like $100 a pop, almost. You know, and it's it's just hard to justify that. And even though Mythic Legions, like my wife doesn't care about toys at all. She didn't grow up reading any of this stuff or watching any of these cartoons. I would hope not. But she appreciates that I like it, but when I get a new Marvel Legend or something, and she's like, whatever, you know. But when I get Mythic Legion figures, she really she really looks at it and she's like, this is really cool, like this is a work of art, and she appreciates, because objectively these are superior figures to so many of the other ones in my collection. But that's not what I'm not objectively going for the most well-made, best painted action figure. I go for things that I love as a child. Like this all stems from from my childhood. Like I love He-Man from when I was a kid, G.I. Joe from when I was a kid. I watched these characters on cartoons, and I read the comic books. I feel like they're a little part of me, and I grew up playing with them. So, but with these things, it's just it's a completely blank slate. Even though the Horsemen give you a little bit of a storyline, every character's got like a little file card written on the box with a little bit of a bio. It's just, it's not from my childhood. There's no nostalgic ties.
It's unique.
So it's unique, but it's the thing. It's too new that I'm just not as connected to it. So yeah, if there was one thing you told me, if I had to cut one toy line, I would never cut, G.I. Joe or Star Wars before this. just because I love G.I. Joe and Star Wars and I always have. But yeah, amazing figures.
Yeah, I think I might have to go home and do some research on the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, I think like you should definitely have like one or two of these guys in your collection. Like it's a little hard to tell with the reins on this horse, but if you look at his face, like the end, like this is a dead horse.
Yeah,
like,
it's a dead horse.
It's got his face is all skeletal. His like nose and his teeth are exposed. Yeah, like he's a kind of a gross looking horse, which is awesome.
I have an extra horse tail if you want.
You got the horse tail from the Build-A-Figure Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really cool. I'm excited to open these guys up and play with them. But I'm not going to do it tonight because it's too late and I got to work in the morning.
It's late, yeah. I have to work too.
Okay, so unless you got anything more you want to say on these guys, like I said, I would recommend you get yourself at least 1 or 2 Mythic Legions. You can't go too deep into this line, but if you like skeleton guys...
Ogres, trolls.
Yeah, they recently... like you've seen how the Four Horsemen do these like homages to the Masters of the Universe. Yeah. I have a few of them. I've got the He-Man, the Skeletor, the Hordak, the Mossman, but they've also done Man-at-Arms, Stinkor, She-Ra, there's a bunch. Anyway, they just revealed that they're doing Stratos in the next, because they're about to launch their All-Stars Wave 5, I think they call it. And so they're adding a bunch of new cool characters, but one of them is the Stratos, and he looks really cool. So even though I was like, in my head I'm thinking like, these might be the last Mythic Legions I buy, then they show me that Stratos, and I'm like, ooh, I might have to get that Stratos figure.
This is not the last Mythic Legion I'll buy.
Yeah.
So do you buy these right from their store, or do you buy them from Big Bad?
I did. The funny thing is, so like this set here, I ordered directly from the Four Horsemen, and that, like I said, there was $300 worth of figure. And look at the size of those boxes. One of them comes with a horse. Anyway, the shipping on that, if I remember correctly, was I don't remember, but it was reasonable. I think it was like $45 or something shipping. And then a couple of months went by. Now, I don't know if this is because of the pandemic. Like, I know everything went up. Like, if this went up for sale today, I would have paid probably way more for those figures. I'm glad that I paid for this at the start of the pandemic because I think that set, like, I can't remember what the Illithia and the horse would have set a cost. I think that was about $100 just on its own, but that's a lot of figures. I think that would easily be a $150 set if they released it today. But anyway, the shipping was reasonable. And then a couple of months later, so now we're maybe a year into the pandemic, they announced they were doing another wave of figures, and I went to go pre-order them, and I put them in my cart, and it said add shipping. I went and add shipping, and the shipping was like over $100. And I was ordering like 2 figures with no horse or anything. They were like 2 standard size figures. And I was like, what is going on here? I was like, 5 months ago, I ordered, 5 figures. 2 of them are giant figures, and it was $45. And I'm ordering 2 small figures, and it's like $112 shipping. And that was just the system they had switched to or whatever. And I was like, I can't order directly from them if that's what they're going to do. So I ordered them from Big Bad Toy Store. They're still outstanding as pre-orders, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them. But I think from now, if they're still charging that much for shipping, I would probably recommend going to Big Bad.
Right.
But you have to do it early on because like they sell them on Four Horsemen first, and then they usually show up on Big Bad soon afterwards, but then they sell out on Big Bad very quickly. And there's a huge secondary market for these things. Like I see people selling them for hundreds of dollars sometimes on the secondary market. That might have cooled now because people are starting to realize that the Horsemen are releasing these all-star waves where they go back and they release like greatest hits figures and all that stuff. But in the first couple of years, people thought they only had the one shot at them when they realized they missed out on a figure they really wanted. Like say I'm all in on my vampire faction now and I want that wave 1 vampire. They might be never release them again, but somebody on eBay is selling them for $250. And that there seems to be a lot of that going around. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that because they'll probably re-release the figures you really want later. So anyway, that enough about that. It's been 20 minutes or so. So why don't we put a plug in this? I will flip things around. We'll do a close-up review, and then me and Chad will be back to sign off. So here's a closer look at Baron Voltagar II. Now you'll notice this guy is still in the packaging, and the only reason for that is because I wanted to quickly show you what I was talking about with the resealable packaging. So you can see how the plastic bubble just carries over, wraps around the side of the card. So all you have to do is kind of lift up one of those sides, and the sleeve, the card just pops right out, and you just slide it out like so, completely undamaged. And you can take this figure out, display him, and then you can just slide the card right back in there, and still displays just as nicely in the card. But anyway, now that you've seen that, let's take a look at this guy free from his plastic prison. So here is Baron Volligar fresh out of the packaging, and I've laid out all of his accessories. So you see he comes with 2 swords. He's got these 2 big pauldrons that go over his shoulders. He's got a shield. This here is the handle to the shield. Then he's got a cloth cape, and then also this furry secondary cape, which I think kind of works as like a big puffy collar on there. So yeah, here's the figure, and yeah, he looks great. I assume this is an original head, but I don't know. So, when me and Chad were talking earlier, he asked me, was there a Baron Volligar the First? And I didn't know off the top of my head. I did go onto the website, and I did see that there was a Baron Volligar the First. And I grabbed a picture of him in his helmeted head. Now, I don't know if Baron Volligar maybe also came with an unhelmeted head, and if he did, is it the same as this one? This might even be the same head that came on some of the other previous vampires, as it looks pretty standard. The only real defining feature, I think, is it looks like he has a scar maybe coming down his forehead, but otherwise there's nothing super distinguishing about this guy's face. Also the armor, I'm not sure how much of this is reused. I'm sure a lot of it, like the gauntlets and the primary arms. I don't know if I have any figures with these pieces because I don't buy a whole lot of the knight characters, but I'm sure these are probably reused from some. But then when you get pieces like this with, I imagine that's supposed to be Illithia's face carved onto his armor, since she's essentially their god. I imagine that's a brand new piece. When it comes to the belts and all this stuff, I don't know how much of it's new. I'm sure we've seen these feet before. I have a couple of characters with those same feet. But yeah, the paint works quite nice. It's a really nice glossy black, like very reflective of the light. It's like he looks really sharp. And then the collar here, this is pretty crazy. I have some other characters with some pretty big collars, but I would say this one must be unique to him. He's got these like bony, like skeletal fingers almost reaching up around his face. And then on the back there, it looks like a spine with some bat wings. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So very cool. And the pauldrons too, like there's a ton of detail on these things. Again, so you see that exposed spine. It looks like maybe a dragon head on the end of it. And then it's like maybe a snake coiled around as well. There's just so much going on here. So you've got like a dragon, a snake, and a bat. It's pretty crazy. Even the backside here has got detail sculpted into the wing. Alright, so now that we've taken a look at everything up close, why don't I get this guy all geared up, and we'll take a look at him fully dressed. So here's a look at Baron Volligar II, all geared up. Now, at least a day has passed since I shot the other little bit there. This video is getting done very much like a little piece at a time. Me and Chad shot the intro and the outro a couple of days ago, and then I shot a little bit of footage of the figures as I was taking them out of the package. But then I realized I wanted to finish shooting the video, but I was going to have to go upstairs and take the blow dryer to all of these figures. As I unpacked the figures, each of them had a little card in here letting me know that I should blow dry the joints to loosen them up because they might have hardened over time. So I wanted to play it safe and do that. After I shot the little bit of the part showing you him in his package and showing you without his gear on, I did take him upstairs and I blow dried all the joints. Blow dried all the joints on all the figures. And so now I'm back here and I'll hopefully finish up the video. However, when I did look back at the footage I did shoot, those couple of minutes, I realized I kept calling this guy Baron Voltagar with an H. It is Baron Volligar. So each of these characters come with a little bio. I'm not going to bother reading all that to you right now. I did just read it a minute ago, and so apparently this guy is the son of Illithia, the goddess of the vampires. So This guy's got some royal blood in him. Now here he is. He's all geared up, as much as he can be anyway. I don't have him armed up with his other sword, but you can see here I've got the shield in his hand. He's just holding it like so. I've also given him the sword, and then his cape is on. So he's got the cloth purple cape as well as this furry little bit, and he's got those very detailed pauldrons on his shoulders as well. So I think he's a much more impressive looking figure when you see him like this. And it was really when I saw the pictures, like the promotional pictures that the Four Horsemen showed of this guy when I first pre-ordered him, those are what convinced me to buy this figure, because I think that furry collar really bulked him up and made him look more interesting and menacing. When I first took him out of the package there yesterday, I was a little underwhelmed with this figure. Like, he's cool, but he didn't seem really all that particularly special as far as Mythic Legions figures go. But I think once you give him this big fur collar and put the pauldrons on him, it does bulk him up and it makes him seem a lot more impressive. So I did have to wrestle with the cape a little bit. You see there's some holes in the cape, and you have to plug the pauldrons through the holes and then they plug into his shoulders. So I had to heat those up to get those to plug in properly. This furry cape is not really attached to him in any way. I just have it kind of tucked around the pauldrons, so it's kind of just resting on him. But yeah, there's no holes in it that you have to put the pauldrons through. So yeah, he looks pretty cool. One problem I do have is you notice when he's got both of the pauldrons on, both the wings seem to curve in the same direction. I wish this one kind of curved out more like that. So I don't know, that might be unique to my figure. Maybe if I heated it up and tried to bend it back the other way, that might fix the problem. But now that I have him all geared up, I don't really want to take him back upstairs for more blow drying. He'll probably go into my display cabinet as is. But yeah, he's a cool figure, and definitely cooler with all of the gear on. So next up, we've got Vallak outside of the packaging. Now, I had referred to this guy as a falconer earlier, but again, when I read the little bio that comes on the side of the package, it does refer to him as a tracker, and it says he uses his bird Cinder to help him with his tracking. So you'll see here that I already have him geared up. I didn't bother shooting any footage of him without all of his gear on. And yeah, he's a pretty solid figure. But again, he doesn't thrill me. Both the first two figures I'm showing you here are my two least favorite of the bunch. And again, not to say they're bad figures at all. They're just, I don't know if they bring anything too new to the table. I really do like this guy's design, because I don't know how much of his parts are unique, but I don't have any other figures with any of this type of gear on. So I don't know if this torso is new for him, and if these boots are new for him. But when it came to Voltagar, I have a few figures with a lot of his same armored bits. But with this guy here, it's all new to me. Whether it's entirely new or not, I'm not sure. But so here is his Falcon Cinder. So it's a nice sculpt on him and a nice paint job. He's got a nice big wingspan. Although I will say I'm a little disappointed in the bird in that, he's got this, I don't know what you call a hood, I guess, that covers his eyes. But it's not removable. So the hood stays on there. And even I have a G.I. Joe figure that comes with a raven or a falcon, and even that little 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe had a removable hood for the falcon. So I think that's something that the Four Horsemen definitely could have done. And also, I just recently got the 6-inch version of of Spirit, who's like the G.I. Joe tracker, and he came with his own bird, Freedom the Eagle. So here's Freedom, and you notice any past version of Freedom was just one big solid hunk of painted plastic, but this guy here, he's got an articulated head now. His wings are articulated, so you can move them up and down. You also see how the wings come off, and that's because you can change them out with these flight wings. So now you can have him flying or have his wings tucked at their side for when he's resting on Spirit's arm. So having just gotten this bird a couple of days ago, it does kind of make Cinder seem a little underwhelming in that he doesn't have any articulation. He's a very nice looking bird, but I think the Four Horsemen could have done better there. Anyway, he is attached to this black kind of cuff, so he doesn't come off of that. And to get that on, I had to pop this guy's hand off and then I just slid that over and then put his hand back on. This this plastic cape part here, this is removable. I had to take that off in order to help me get the pauldrons and the cape on, which weren't attached to him in the package. You see I also have one of his swords here and it's sheathed. I just have that kind of clipped onto his belt. There's probably a couple areas where you could have maybe clipped that on. Like you see, it could have clipped on anywhere along here. And then his bow is pretty cool. It's got an actual string there on the bow. And it's a nice size bow. And yeah, just really cool paints, really cool sculpts. Like, I like the look of this guy. But again, out of these, figures that I got here today, he's a little low, low tier figure for me compared to the other guys. He also has his quiver here, and like the sheath, it just has a little clip on the side, so you can clip that over the belt. And then he has one loose arrow, which I don't know. There might be a way to display this arrow in his in his bow and everything, but it just seems like an awkward little piece to me. I'm probably going to throw both these parts in my just bag of spare parts, and I'm unlikely to ever see those again. I'm just going to display him just like this. It was a little finicky trying to put this guy together, like putting his pauldrons and his cape on. He kept coming apart at the waist, which isn't to say he was broken. They're meant to be able to come apart there, so you can take their belts and all that stuff off. But he was coming apart a little too easily for my liking. And I do find, even though some of their joints required heating to loosen them up, some of them are a little looser than I'd like. Like, not enough so that he's wobbly, but I mean his ankles, they move pretty easily. And where he's a kind of a heavy figure and he carries a lot of weight, I want him to be able to stand properly, but his ankles kind of roll forward. So, cool figure, not perfect. I might have to invest in some Mythic Legion stands, which you can buy on the Four Horsemen's website, to get these guys to stand properly. But all in all, pretty cool. So next up, we have the character that I think is called Decebalus. So this is the bigger 9-inch figure in the ogre scale. So as I mentioned before, I already have a couple figures in the scale. I do have a couple ogres, which are green-skinned, and I have one guy that's a giant that is like white-skinned, and then I also have a blue guy in this scale who's a cyclops. Anyway, I assumed this guy was just going to be kind of marketed as a big muscular vampire. But upon reading his little bio that comes with it, it says that he is the result of an experiment where they bred vampires and ogre DNA, and the result was this group of big brutes called the Voltagar, and Decabus here, or Deciballis, whatever. He is the first of the Voltagar. And so anyway, that's a little bit of backstory for you. And this guy's awesome. This is the one I expected to be my favorite of the line, just because the 9-inch ogres and stuff, I have really liked them. Recently, they're probably some of my favorite ones in the collection that I have thus far. And I thought this guy looked really cool. I thought the big muscular body really translated well to the stark white skin of the vampire and everything. I just thought he was really cool. And he is really cool, but I don't think he's my favorite. In part, it might just be because he feels a little bit been there, done that. Like, again, his face, like, it matches all the other guys, which is good, but there's nothing particularly interesting about it. He doesn't have any super, unique distinguishing features. And then as far as the body goes, and, like, all these parts, the boots, the belt, the cuffs, it's all stuff we've seen before. So there's nothing particularly new about this guy. Now that I have 5 of these larger 9-inch scale figures, I'd like to see a little bit more diversity in like their gear. But regardless, this is a cool sculpt, and so it works no matter how many figures they make it on. And if this is your first one, if you don't have any of the previous ogre releases, you'll probably love it because I really like it. It's just, I wish it had a few more new parts. Maybe if it had some sort of chest armor as an option to differentiate him from the ogres. But I don't know what more to really say. You see, I've got him already geared up, which is basically I just gave an axe, put an axe in his hand. When he was in the package, he came with both open hands, so you can't really hold the weapons very well with these hands. So I swapped one of his hands out, gave him the more gripping hand, and gave him the axe. So you see here he does have another gripping hand that I could swap out there if I wanted. And then he also has another axe. This one's like 4-bladed. And then he has kind of an extension here. So I think you can pop the ends off of these axes, and you can make it longer, essentially. So that one there, I kind of gave him a short axe, but if I wanted to give it a big, long handle, I could. And even these weapons, these are similar to what I've seen. I think they're probably the exact same weapons that I've seen with the other ogres. So even those aren't particularly new or groundbreaking or anything like that. This guy, as I mentioned before, I had to take the hairdryer to him. He was a little stiff, but now his arms move pretty well. I've got his joints all moving, so he moves pretty well. Now these guys do still have, their articulation is fine for my needs, but it is a little dated now compared to what a lot of the other figures being produced by other companies are like nowadays, with the double jointed elbows and knees and stuff. These guys just have the single joint, so you don't get a great range of motion on these guys. You can see there he does have some holes in his back, as all these Mythic Legions figures do. So if I do want to put pauldrons on him, like the pegs should work. If I took the pauldrons off of Voltagar or something, they should be able to go onto him. One of the coolest things about this guy, I think, is his, we'll call it skirt piece here, I guess. Like, this feels like real leather, and it's wired. So there's a wire running through these, so you can pose this. So if you want it to kind of flat back like that, you can do that, and it'll hold that pose. And each of these in the front as well, those are wired. So you can kind of bend those. So there's 3 of these things dangling here, and they've got real metal, a little metal button on there. You can kind of hear them clicking against one another. So that's very cool. He's kind of like a big bad leather daddy. So yeah, it's cool. It's a cool look. I like this dude. I think he's probably my, I don't know, second favorite, third favorite of the bunch. He's definitely cool. But anyway, let's move on to the next guy. So next up, we've got Varg. And again, I didn't know anything about this guy until a couple of minutes ago. I'm just looking at their kind of bios before I bring them out here for review. And when I read this guy, it doesn't sound like Varg is his actual name. It says that the Varg are bred by the vampires to act as their bloodhounds. So Varg almost sounds like it's like a whole breed of these things, not necessarily this guy's name. So this guy, I assumed he was an individual, but it sounds like he's maybe more of an army builder. So you could buy a bunch of these Vargs and have a whole little squad of bloodhounds. It also says that they are chained to their, what's the word they use? Their masters. So he came with all these little chained bits. So you see, one of them is it's kind of like a weapon on a chain. And this was connected to a handcuff, which I just chained to his upper arm. And then he also has these 2 cuffs, which I just chained together. He's got one on each wrist. But I guess how he should be displayed is at least one of these handcuffs should probably be on his master. You know, that's like his leash holding on to him. So yeah, this guy I really like. I expected to like him anyway, but I like him more than I anticipated. In that I really do like the size of him, especially when speaking about the bigger guy. He's so similar to the other 9-inch figures that I have. So like I said, he didn't feel like he brought anything new to the table for me. But when it comes to the 4-inch figures, the only other one I have is this little impish guy. And he's so much smaller. He's not big and muscular. He has wings, but his wings are essentially just this bit. They're just teeny little, bony little blue wings. This guy has these full-size, giant wings. And it just makes him look very impressive. I like the metal chains. I like the armor on this guy. And again, since I only have one other 4-inch figure, all these parts are pretty much new to me. I don't think he shares many parts with the little impish guy that I already have. I love the face sculpt on this guy. It's similar to the other ones, so you can tell that these guys all belong to the same, family, essentially. But this guy just looks extra nasty. And then he comes with this big collar, which is removable. I don't know if I'm going to keep it on him or not. I kind of like the way he looked without it. just completely bare-chested. But, I guess it does break up all that white a little bit. But that's easy enough to remove. You just pop his head off and it comes right off. The wings are articulated, so you can move them around and they can spread out like that. They can move, like you see the joint there, so you can move them backwards so you could fold them right back. They were very stiff when I took them out of the box. I did have to take the hairdryer to these to really loosen those joints up. Here you can see he's got a little hole on his back too, so you can still attach some other things. And if I wanted to take his wings off, I could put pauldrons in those holes as well. So, these guys are kind of customizable. You can change up the looks a little bit. So yeah, this guy is very cool and he's very impressive. As awesome as he is, my only kind of maybe the negative I see of this guy is how much space he's going to take up on my shelf. I don't have much room to display these figures. The space on my shelves is, it's at a premium. I need that space. So when you get a figure like this, it takes up the width of 3 or 4 figures. It's a little tough, and I can't even fold up his wings too much because he's so short. As soon as I start bringing these inward, the wings become taller than he is, and it kind of lifts him off the ground. So because of his small stature, I kind of have to spread the wings out at least that much. But who knows? If it gets bad enough, I unfortunately might have to take the wings off of him in the display case. But anyway, I think he looks awesome. And so he also has 2 extra hands. They're not that different. You can see I've got them with one of each type of hand. So they're both kind of gripping hands. One's a lot tighter, one's a lot looser. They were easy enough to switch out. He also has this weapon here, which I would call it a mace, but I don't know what it actually is. So that's pretty cool. And then he has this really big axe, which is cool. I think the little impish guy I keep referring to, whose name I can't remember right now, I think he also came with this weapon or something similar. And it looks pretty impressive in the hands of a little short guy like this. It's a pretty big axe. But I've opted to just display him with the sword. And it's a pretty cool sword as well. It kind of matches the color scheme with just that little hint of purple in there to kind of tie him to the other figures, which are all decked out in black and purple. So, yeah. Varg might very well be my favorite of this wave. I just think he's really cool. I love that sculpt. Look at even all the veins in his arms and on his pecs and everything. Like, this guy's ripped, and that face is just, it's pretty terrifying, pretty grotesque. Just great stuff. Love this figure. So next up is the vampire goddess herself, Illithia or Illithia. And she's awesome. This is a really cool figure. I had to display her pretty far back so you could get the whole scope, because you can see she's got a lot going on. But now I'm going to bring her a little closer so we can see some of those details. So again, she's got a beautiful face sculpt, and she's got all these little braids, little hairy bits here that you can, they're kind of rubber, you can move those a little bit. And they've all got little sculpted details on the ends of them. The headdress is awesome. There's just a lot going on there. So it looks like there's snakes and bones. And I love this little dude on the top, the little skeleton guy with the scales. Very cool. Along the back here, again, you still get all that sculpted detail with her hair coming at the back. She's got 3 separate braids, I guess we'd call them. I had to kind of wrestle this piece. So this piece wasn't attached to her. I had to attach it to her, and I had to kind of work it around her hair so it fit on there properly. I don't know for sure I've got this on right. You'll see that it's got these 4 separate hands coming out of it. And you'll see these hands, they're like upside down. So I don't know if that's right. And then these hands here are kind of open hands. So I wasn't sure how the Horsemen intended me to display this figure, so I had to look online. And they had images where she's holding these 2 scales on the chains in these hands. And then they had her 2 swords, like I had them, being held by these hands here, kind of crossed over like that. But the thing is, if that's the way she's supposed to be displayed, these hands are so open and there's no interchangeable hand. They don't really hold the swords very well. So I think I might have this upside down, or perhaps it's just a matter of pulling the hands out and swapping them. I don't know if that's easy to do, but it would make more sense for me to move these hands up here so they could grip the swords, and then move these hands with they can kind of flatten out and then you could rest the chains over them. So I probably have this on backwards or upside down or something, but I really don't feel like messing around with it right now. Anyway, so she's got the 2 of these little chains here. I seem to have misplaced the other one. I'll have to find that in a second. And then she also came with this crazy thing, which is like, looks like 2 spines of, I don't know, some sort of weird little rodent or serpent, and they're fused together, and then they've also got these little balancing scales. So I'm not really sure what the deal with all that is, but it's cool. And yeah, she's got, this is cloth, so this is like a soft goods belt. Then she has all this wired soft goods here as well. So there's wires in these, so you can move those around. So you can see she's got her like bare legs underneath there, with some, pretty simple armor on her calves, compared to the rest of her armor anyway. But yeah, great looking figure. I think the black and purple work really well on this figure. She looks really great. Now I just want to find that other scale here. So there we go. There she is with her other scale that I had previously misplaced. So yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot more to say. Like, she moves well. She probably required the least amount of heat in order to get her joints working. But like, these aren't the kind of figures that I think you can really play with. Like, they're not super posable, and I guess they don't really need to be because there's just so much going on with her. Like, I think if I tried to pose or anything too dynamic, stuff would just start falling off of her. Like, these are really meant as display pieces. And so yeah, once you find a nice pose, I would recommend you just kind of keep her there. Whoops. And there you go. And again, with all these pieces and all these add-ons, that big headdress, the big piece on her back, it does make her a little unstable, but not too bad. I think she's got a pretty good footing there. I think I could probably put her up like that in my cabinet and we'd be good to go. But anyway, really cool figure. Now I guess we should take a look at her horse, Phobus. So here is Phobus outside of the box. He is a pretty impressive figure. As far as horses go, I don't know. I think he's an amazing horse figure. I have quite a few impressive horse figures in my collection nowadays. From the Masters of the Universe Classics line, I have like Swiftwind and Arrow. This is now my 2nd Mythic Legions horse. I have some horses in a smaller scale from Boss Fight Studios. So, yeah, I guess people are really getting the hang of making a really good horse figure. Because any horse toy that I ever had as a kid was usually just a solid piece of plastic. It didn't have any articulation. At best, maybe its head moved from side to side or something. But nowadays, you can see like all the articulation. There's articulation on the hooves, at the knee, on the leg, on all the legs. The tail moves. The head moves. Like you get a joint there. And anyway, there's a closer look at the head that I was talking about earlier. So you can see his face. If I can move these reins a little bit, his mouth is all kind of rotted away. It's just that skeletal bone on his face. And you kind of see his nose bone there as well. Like, it just looks like the rotted head of a dead horse. I don't know if his mouth opens. I don't think so. And I don't have much room. It's such a big figure. I don't have much room on my desk. It makes it hard to review him. Lots of nice detail throughout here. I think this is probably the same, what do you call it, tackle? Or, the saddle. I don't know. I'm not a horse guy. But I think it's pretty similar to what we saw on the other horses released in the line. Now it does have some like little specialty bits there. Like that's very cool. It looks like he's got a gargoyle hanging off the front of him there with the bat wings. And the headdress with all that bony, spine looking stuff with the wings there. That definitely matches up with the vampire theme. Although I gotta say, I feel a little bit the same way with his saddle and stuff as I did when I got Illythia and Atheon. That this feels a little too normal. Like, again, I've never ridden a horse. I don't know how essential it is to have this kind of like, blanket rolled up back here. Like, I can understand that if this was a cowboy's horse or something. But to see, like, demon gods make sure they have their little wrapped up blanket on the back of their horse and just all of this, it feels a little too normal for, like, a undead demon horse. So I find that a little strange. But I love the color of this guy. He's black. I love the purple mane and everything. That looks really cool. And again, it ties him in with the rest of the series. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot more to say about the horse. Like, it's an impressive thing. And as I mentioned earlier with Chad, I have pre-ordered the third Horseman, but I'm really thinking about canceling it. I might still get the figure, like the actual plague god, but I don't know if I need his horse. I know that kind of takes away from the whole 4 horsemen of the apocalypse thing, but they're just so big and they take up a lot of room for display, and I'm not that passionate about horses. I appreciate the work that went into this figure, and how beautiful it is, and if you only collect Mythic Legions, then go for it. But since I collect G.I. Joe and Transformers and Ninja Turtles and Masters of the Universe and everything else under the sun, I really don't have the room or the money to be buying like $100 horses. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess that's all I really have to say about Phobos. Impressive figure, but probably my last horse for a while. So before we wrap things up, I figured I would get a shot of everybody together just so you could see all the different scales at play here. So there you go. There's all the figures. So you can see just how short this guy is compared to the standard 6-inch figures here. How the horse scales with these guys. And then how big the ogre scale figures are. And so yeah, these guys look pretty impressive together. I also think I mentioned earlier in the video that I didn't have any of the earlier vampire figures. I forgot. I did actually order one other one. I bought the one that is an homage to Hordak. So he looks like Hordak from Masters of the Universe. He's got the black, red, and blue outfit, but he's clearly a vampire that belongs with these guys. So yeah, I'll probably display him with these guys, but he does kind of break up the vibe a little bit because of his color scheme. But anyway, there you go. And you know what? I'm realizing now I probably should at least show you one shot of Illithia on her horse. So maybe we'll do that before we wrap this up. So here is Illithia on her horse. So she looks cool up there. And yeah, she can still hold her other accessories and everything while she's riding the horse. So that's cool. However, I don't know if I'll display her like this. I've just got the kind of glass Detolf cabinets from IKEA. That's how I display my Mythic Legions. And I fear that she might be a little too tall. She was already pretty tall anyway with her headdress and everything, but I think when she's on Phobos' back like that, it might be a little too much. So I might just have to display her standing next to her horse. But anyway, it does make for an impressive set. I think both of these figures were available individually, so you don't have to buy them together. I think the same has been true of all of the horse rider characters. But yeah, I opted for the set for this one. I think you might save a little bit of money if you buy them together. But yeah, I don't think... I definitely would recommend Illythia. I don't necessarily think you need Phobos here. So yeah, you might want to consider buying her on her own. But anyway, let's wrap this up. Okay, so that was my review of Mythic Legions Illithia Wave. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave me some comments below. Like and subscribe to the channel. I know you don't have much to add because you weren't really here while I did that.
I don't, but yeah, no, this is fantastic. I enjoyed the unboxing, and I'm excited to go home and do some research of my own and check out some of their waves and what they're about.
Thanks for coming over and doing that with me because, like, I know it is late, and I was a little worried you were going to say, like, you know what, it's kind of late, why don't we do it tomorrow? And then I would have to sit on this box all day tomorrow.
I wouldn't do that, yeah.
So I'm glad that you were here, and we got to open this up and experience it together. And hopefully you enjoy the rest of this video when I post it, and you get to see the whole middle part. And you'll get to see them up close next time you come over anyway. But, okay. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Ciao.
Catch you on the flip side.